behind the scenes, the Royal Report.
Good evening, welcome to the Royal Report. I'm Caroline Taruso, and here's what we've got for you tonight on the show. We celebrate 1 year since the coronation of King Charles, and we have the details of the special memento presented to the monarch. And another royal Photoshop scandal. This time it's the Danes. We have the latest on what the royal house has said about the rumours of doctored photos. Plus, as Prince Harry prepares to touch down in the UK, what are the chances of a reconciliation with brother William? We'll get the latest from Esther Krakue in London. But first, tomorrow marks a year since the coronation of King Charles III. And I still can't decide if it's gone like a flash or that it has been so eventful in the interim that the coronation feels like an eternity ago. To mark the occasion, the King and Queen have received the official coronation roll, an official recording of the coronation proceedings traditionally presented to monarchs and their consorts. Calligrapher Stephanie Gill worked 56 consecutive days writing the roll. It's the first to use paper, and the 57 pages containing 11,600 words are all stitched together. Now, the man himself summed it all up perfectly, saying to the team behind the official record, "You deserve a very stiff drink." And I think that quip could be applied more broadly to describe the last 12 months. The stress and complexity of the coronation itself, the dramas with the American side of the family, the health concerns for King Charles and Princess Catherine, and the stretched royal family resources. More on this shortly with my panel. And just shy of the King's 1 year anniversary, he returned to public duties, and hopefully, despite recent dramas, the royal family is headed back to some semblance of normalcy. It has been a lot. And for those of us who are royal observers, we have seen a vulnerability of the royal family in a way not really seen before. This week, Hannah Furness, the royal editor of The Telegraph in the UK, summed it up perfectly with the headline, "From Monarch to Mortal, the year that changed our relationship to the King." And I think that's right. The King changed due to a very serious experience, and that changed our relationship with him along the way. Joining me now is News Corp columnist Angela Mollard and media writer for The Australian, Sophie Ellsworth. Ladies, I cannot actually believe it has been a year since the coronation. Angela, what have been your highlights?
Look, I've got two highlights, and you alluded to it in your intro. One is that for the royal family, these health crises have been the great leveller. Remember, these are people that don't carry cash. They don't have to make their own dinner. They don't have to pay a mortgage. They are now, though, dealing with health issues that happen to everybody. And I think that levelling that has come about through these health issues has made them almost defined this first year of the King's reign. You know, if the late Queen represented majesty and mystique, then Charles's reign is representing relatability. But I think my other key take out from this key role, from this first year, has been the ascendancy of Camilla. Remember back in 1999, 25 years ago, I was standing outside the Ritz Hotel and there was no love for that woman. It was only that Diana had died 2 years earlier. Behind the scenes, they were talking about how they were ever going to have a relationship that would be recognised, let alone her being the wife of the monarch. And now we've seen her come into her own, supporting her husband and being at the forefront of the royal family. So I think that's been astonishing, and we've seen exactly the calibre of woman she is.
Oh, absolutely. That long game and that ascendancy has been absolutely impeccable to watch. And Sophie, from a media angle, the interest in the royals hasn't let up since the coronation. What have been the really notable stories for you, and do you expect it all to continue?
Well, everyone loves the royals' stories. I mean, they've never stopped coming out in the media. I mean, they make headlines every single day, but you cannot go past the health issues that Catherine and King Charles have suffered in the last year. And as Angela put it, this has really, I think, made them quite relatable, that they are, enduring something that many ordinary people face, and that is health issues. And it's made them very real and relatable. People can resonate with them over what they're going through because they've probably had someone close to them go through these health issues. So as much as it is a sad state of affairs, we have seen a lot of positivity in recent months, and the fact that both are recovering well, King Charles making a comeback to the public forum, I think they are obviously the big takeouts from the last year.
Absolutely, Sophie. And I think too, because they've been so public about it and there has been so much in the media, the advocacy that has gone along with that, people going and getting their own health checked out. I think that there has been, the silver lining to what has been a very sad state of affairs for the family personally. But Angela, the King is back to public duties this week, and he was visiting cancer sufferers. Not only poignant, obviously, as a way to recommence public duties, but, his message was very personal.
It was incredibly personal, wasn't it? That, and for me, watching it, you always see them as sovereign and subject. You never see it as patient to patient. And then we had the King of England sitting down alongside other sufferers. And I love this line. He said to one of the people he met, a man, he said, "It's always a bit of a shock, isn't it, when they tell you." He's talking about being diagnosed with cancer, and that doesn't matter whether you're a king or you're a commoner or you're a homeless person living on the street. When you are told you have cancer, there is, your hierarchy is of no note at all. And I thought that was really telling. I love the fact that he talked about being tired, that you lose your sense of taste. This is the first time he's been able to sit alongside some of the people that, the patronages and the charities that he's represented for decades, and actually have a shared experience with some of the people that he's talking to. He, of course, has been made patron of Cancer Research UK in the last week, and according to his team, he now takes on the 5 C's. So he's always been at the front of conservation, community, the Commonwealth, culture, and now he's adding this 5th C, which is cancer, to his portfolio of obviously vested interests.
Absolutely vested interest. And Sophie, he also attended the Royal Windsor Horse Show this week. We're big fans, obviously, of Zara Tindall on this show. Great to see him enjoying the event, and evidently his very close relationship with her.
Wasn't it great, Caroline, to see him back out in force and looking really well, I think, for someone who has gone through a cancer battle. And we need this good news at the moment coming out of the royal family to know that he's definitely well and truly on the road to recovery. But interestingly, it's his first time at the event since 1979, so 45 years ago, when he was actually a participant. And it's obviously an event that was very dear to his mother's heart and one that she would never miss. So seeing that vision and those photos coming out of the event, I think that warmed the hearts of many, Caroline, to know that King Charles is back and he's fighting fit.
Absolutely. And Angela, we love a poll on this show, and the latest one indicates that Princess Catherine is even more popular than Prince William. Even with all the recent dramas, she's popular as ever.
I know, you must be feeling a little bit dejected by that if you're William, don't you think? You've been holding your family together, you've been doing the outward-facing royal things. Look, I don't think he would have any problem. She's only pipped him by 1 point. But it does show that there is a deep affection there for the royal family and members of it, whether they're seen or not seen. I think most people relate to Kate as somebody who is tremendously loyal, honourable and service-driven. And for a lot of the public that have watched and followed her story and the many hiccups in terms of press along the way, they look at her and they just, at the end of the day, she is a mother of 3 young children being diagnosed with cancer. All they want for her now is for her to be healthy, for her to be well, and there is not that drive to see her anymore. That's completely dissipated. She's still in the forefront of our minds, but it just shows you that if you're a person of calibre and you're the work that you did beforehand, that the public will absolutely support her, and I think this will be for the rest of her life. If you think about it, William and Kate will see out, if they're, health willing, see out this century at the front of the royal family. Well, they'll be, they probably won't last till the end of it, but they will be front and centre. And the fact that she and William are so popular bodes incredibly well for their own reign in years to come.
Yeah, and so, you know, even though we aren't seeing Kate at the moment, she's still evidently, like Angela said, still front of mind. William has been out and about a bit this week, and he gave us an update on her recovery during a walkabout. What did he have to say?
Well, that's right, Caroline. He was in Newcastle at a men's suicide prevention centre, and one of the people there asked him in the crowd, you know, how's she going? How are your family? And he responded by saying, we're doing well. Now, that's not giving away too much, but it's obviously very positive and providing some insight to people very curious, because as we know, Catherine has very much been out of the spotlight. She has not been seen in public for months. And, you know, people all around the world, not just in the UK, really want to know how she's going. So I think that little bit of glimmer of hope to know, yes, she is a mum of three, she is recovering well and they're going well, I think was very positive to hear, and it would be welcomed by many people. Just encouraging to get that little update from Prince William.
Yeah, and I do like how now that curiosity, it's just a lot warmer and I suppose a lot less intrusive as it was a few weeks back, when I think we would all agree that it got totally out of hand. But speaking out of hand, another Photoshop row, Angela. This time it's the Danish royal family. What on earth has happened here, or has been claimed to happen here?
Look, what's been claimed to happen is that these official portraits to mark the coronation of Mary and Frederick, there's claims that they've been photoshopped. Look, the minute I saw these photos, I thought if I was head of the comms department for the Danish royal house, I would have got them reshot. These pictures, the picture of the pair of them together, their hands look awkward. You can see there, it looks like Mary's hand is in front of Frederick's. The lighting is different at the front. I mean, that doesn't look like a true photo to me. That said, the royal family has come out and said, no, these are completely, there's no photoshopping here. These are accurate. There's a, you know, look, you have to believe them because there's no way they'd be lying about that now. But there's something not right about these pictures, and it's not just the formality of them. There's a stiffness. Frederick looks very old and very tired. Mary looks like she's had her own picture and it's just been dropped in there, but they're saying it hasn't, so we have to believe them, bearing in mind that, of course, when the British royal family were charged with photoshopping, Kate came out straight away and said, yes, she had been dabbling around with Photoshop. So I don't think there would be any chance that they would be not telling us the truth, the Danish royal family.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And Sophie, still with the Danish royals, and Mary and Frederick have given their first interview since becoming king and queen. I've only got about 30 seconds left, but what were the highlights?
So the highlights, Caroline, were really that, you know, they were talking about the moment that Frederick had his coronation and came out onto the balcony, you know, in front of thousands of people, and how that, you know, he just said that moment was so special. And also looking to the future, how they're going to really, you know, forge ahead with issues such as, you know, supporting businesses and communities, and that there's a bright future ahead. So not giving away a lot, but plenty of positivity coming from the Danish royals.
Excellent. Love that. Angela Mollard, Sophie Ellsworth, thank you so much for joining us. And coming up, why Meghan won't be joining Prince Harry as he returns to the UK, and the special reason the pair are off to Nigeria. Esther Krakue joins me from London next. Welcome back to the show. Joining me now is writer and broadcaster Esther Krakue. Esther, with Harry's imminent visit to the UK, speculation continues about his relationship with his family, who he will see, who he won't see while he's there. Where does all that stand at the moment?
So we know that Prince Harry is due to meet up with King Charles. Their relationship has somewhat thawed, particularly after the revelation that his father, the king, has cancer. There are reports that the Prince Harry has no plans of seeing Prince William, and I think that the feeling is mutual. I suspect actually Prince Harry might have extended an olive branch, but you know, Prince William and his family are just not interested at all. Clearly, the trust has been broken. There are many questions as to why Meghan and the children are not joining him, because we know that he wanted to bring them over. This could potentially be for a few reasons. One, because he's planning on appealing his case against the Home Office to the Court of Appeal. It could be a legal tactic to say, look, for the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games, this organization I've been involved in since its conception, I couldn't even bring my family over. So it could be a tactic to kind of pull at the heartstrings of the court. That's one thing. Another thing could be because obviously it's Archie's birthday. Meghan wanted to stay over with the kids as she did for the King's coronation. Another reason could be Meghan just doesn't feel comfortable coming to the UK. There have been reports that she doesn't want to be part of kind of the whole media or tabloid frenzy. I don't suspect that's really the case, because she's part of that frenzy anyway. I mean, if she's not getting it from British media, she's certainly getting it from American media. She was featured in an episode of South Park, for the love of God. And then the last question is obviously the safety, or the last option is probably the safety reason, where Harry doesn't feel safe. And he said this many times, bringing his family over. I do find it curious that he feels safer in the US, a country where you can freely carry guns, to even places like Walmart. But somehow the UK, that has a much better and safer track record, he doesn't feel safe. Meghan and Harry are also planning a trip to Nigeria as part of the Invictus Games. They're invited by the Nigerian military. And again, it's raised questions as to why the couple feels safe in a country like Nigeria, even surrounded by sort of all the military entourage and all of that, but not in the UK. So there are very many questions around the nature of this visit. Why it's only Harry? What is his motivations behind it just being him, and him not visiting with his family? Why he's only seeing his father, the king, and not his sister-in-law, who's also undergoing cancer treatment. But, you know, there might be a few surprises. Meghan could potentially come to the UK and then join Harry on their trip to Nigeria. It's a very common stopover. You usually don't fly directly from Los Angeles all the way to Lagos. You usually have to do a stopover somewhere in Europe, and that tends to be the UK, because it tends to have the most flights to Nigeria. So there are many questions around the logistics of this and the reasons behind it. But I personally suspect that one, Harry knows that he's not welcome in the Wales' home for obvious reasons. Kate doesn't need that kind of stress when she's undergoing cancer treatment. And I also think that Meghan actually is probably using Archie's birthday as a decent excuse to just stay away. I don't know if it's necessarily she fears for her safety, but I just don't think she's very comfortable coming to the UK, and I don't think the British public are particularly fussed about that either.
Now, an interesting claim this week that the royal family rift is causing a damaged generation of monarchy. Take a look at this.
You know, as children get older, they get more curious about their family, don't they? Why haven't I met my cousins? Why haven't I met my uncle and his wife and all of that?
Absolutely, and hopefully it will be the children that mend the relationship, because obviously they want to see each other, and it will be really, really sad for that not to happen. In fact, it will sort of be like a damaged generation, really, if something doesn't work out.
Esther, do you think that's a fair observation? Or perhaps do you think that some of the damage from the last generation is partially the cause of all this?
I think that's a fair allegation, and I think that's something that I've been very vocal about. That's what concerns me. You know, you have Lilibet and Archie taking their titles, basically their parents insisting that they be given the title of prince and princess, and yet they have really no significant ties to the royal family in any meaningful way. They just happen to be the children of, you know, the king's son. And so you're questioning why did they do that, especially because they've been so vocal about their grievances within the institution and with the royal family at large. And, you know, I don't think this is one of those things that can actually be mended by the children. Like I've mentioned before, I think this rift is just going to calcify. And it's because above everything, the trust has been lost. The trust has been broken. You know, any kind of relationship that the Sussexes will now want to have with the royal family will try and look like they're weaseling their way back into relevance. You know, the whole Netflix thing and the Oprah interviews, them kind of blowing the lid off this whole institution has really just not only not endeared themselves to the public, but also has completely destroyed any hopes that Prince William and his family and the king and the queen particularly can even trust them. I mean, Harry revealed some very, very uncomfortable details about his relationship or his feelings towards Queen Camilla, towards his sister-in-law, that the public was under the assumption that they had a good, close relationship with. He also showed a lot of immaturity and lack of judgment in his actions, and you just can't be of that character and have any sort of meaningful relationship with the royal family. And I think those accusations extend as well to Meghan.
Speaking of the institution, and the royal family's coming up to a busy period prior to the summer break. They've got the Buckingham Palace Garden Party, Royal Ascot Gala Day at Windsor Castle, and of course Trooping the Colour. Do we know if Princess Catherine will be attending any of these events?
So far, it's been earmarked for her to not attend the events, and understandably so. She's still undergoing preventative treatment for cancer. It is possible she might make a surprise appearance, but at the moment, we don't believe that she is going to be involved. We know the king is going to be involved, but again, this would have been an opportune time to have other members of the royal family pick up a bit of the slack. I'm sure Prince Harry would have wanted his kids to see something like Garter Day and Trooping the Colour and all of these very uniquely British things, but unfortunately that's not the case. And so we now have a situation where the royal family is basically stretched to the limit, and you have to kind of balance tact with privacy and not pushing anything.
And last week on the show, we discussed Charles's return to public duties. This week he has been out and about. Unsurprisingly, Camilla has had to curb his enthusiasm.
Yes, as I'm sure we all expected would be the case. We know that she's described him as a bit of a workaholic. He's not someone that likes to laze around. I mean, he's been waiting to be king his entire life. This Monday will be the anniversary of his coronation, and he didn't think that, in the first year of his reign he would be saddled with an awful cancer diagnosis and would have had to deal with so much, including what his son and daughter-in-law, the Sussexes, have put him through, and particularly his mother through during the last few years of her reign. So he's obviously had quite a full-on experience as the new reigning monarch, and it's been quite heavy for him. So you can see why he's very keen to get out and about and to kind of inspire hope, especially when he was talking at the Macmillan Cancer Research headquarters, talking about to actual people undergoing cancer treatment, saying, look, I am where you are right now. He was very emotional and affectionate. He was very touchy, and he's holding people's hands, which is a huge kind of it's a huge kind of distance from how he used to behave. This is not a man who's known for being touchy-feely. There's a famous picture of him shaking his mother's hands when he was going to school back in, I believe, the 50s or so. So he's not known for being quite physically affectionate with the public, but this has been quite a shift in his personality, and it shows not only does he feel touched now to be with these people during this time of his life where he is also undergoing cancer treatment, but he really does want to give all of himself for as long as he has.
Thank you for that, Esther Krakue. A pleasure as always. Before we go, our fossick through the archives, and the first work contract for Princess Diana has sold at auction for over £8,000 to a private collector. On her applications, her skills are listed as cook, basic, housework, animals and ballet dancer. And interestingly, she lists her birthday as 1 July 1960 rather than the correct 1 July 1961. It's understood that this was intentional, so Diana would appear older and therefore more likely to secure a job with the agency, or at least a higher rate of pay. And that's the show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Up next is Newsnight. Good night, and we will see you next week.